Welcome to my very first Better Call Saul Season 5 episode review videos. This, of course, is the Season 5 premiere. Before I get into that, though, pretty important. If you are caught up to the point where I am every rewatching or watching Better Call Saul, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which, of course, I'll mention as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, you find that you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen Better Call Saul all the way through one time. This universe is one of my favorite universes. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I wanted to rewatch it to let things resonate. In fact, I actually did review videos of Season 6 when the show was actually airing live. So if you want to check out anything Better Call Saul Season 6 related, I'll put that playlist right here with about 20 seconds left to go in the video. And of course, if you want to check out any of my Breaking Bad content, I've reviewed every single episode of Breaking Bad. I ranked the characters, I ranked the seasons, and I ranked my favorite episodes. I'll put the playlist for that right there with 20 seconds left. That's the end screen. It'll be the link to that playlist. So, big fan of the show. Want to rewatch it to let it resonate. So with all that said, this will be Better Call Saul Season 5, Episode 1. The title of this episode is called Magic Man. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. So we start off in the future following his release from the hospital in Omaha. A terrified Gene Takovic drives home, packs some luggage, retrieves a business card and a cache of diamonds from his shoebox, and switches the license plates on his car. Then he drives into Kansas, listening to the police radio frequency through a CB scanner throughout the journey. Gene Takovic has breakfast at a diner, but has some trouble interacting with a server. When he notices the time, he phones the Cinnabon to take a couple days off of work. Then Gene drives back home and spends some time listening to the scanner and peering outside. When Gene returns to work at the Cinnabon, he is kind of approached by two men on his lunch break, one of them being Gene's cab driver from the night of his collapse, who introduces himself as Jeff. And Jeff reveals that he has recognized Gene having lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, when Saul Goodman was a local celebrity. Gene initially thinks of ignorance with this, but then gives in when Jeff pressures him into saying his catchphrase, "Better call Saul." After noticing some nearby Nebraska State Troopers, Jeff tells Gene that if he ever needs a ride, he should just call the cab company and ask for him before leaving with his friend. And then Gene goes to a payphone and contacts Ed, the disappearer, who, of course, was in a couple episodes of Breaking Bad towards the end. He had originally brought him, Gene, Saul, whatever, to Omaha to begin a new life. Ed quickly recognizes Gene, who asks for Ed to extract him again. Ed warns that it will be very difficult and require double the original fee, and then Gene initially agrees, and Ed sets the pickup time at 7 a.m. on Thursday at the same spot he dropped Gene off before. After a moment of consideration, Gene suddenly changes his mind and tells Ed that he will instead fix it myself before hanging up from Ed. And that actor, Ed, this was filmed at the same time that El Camino was filmed, and he died the day that El Camino came out on Netflix, when it premiered on Netflix. So rest in peace to Robert Forster. Anyway, then we go to our time in the show. Shortly after the reinstatement of his law license, Jimmy is signing the DBA, doing business as, allowing him to practice under his new name. Outside the licensing room, Jimmy explains to an anxious Kim that rather than practice law nobly as he misled the bar committee into believing, he plans to take the criminals who know him from his illicit drop phone business and use them as his new clientele. Kim, upset by this turn of events, reluctantly agrees to accept Jimmy's new plan. Jimmy returns to the licensing office to sign the final piece of paperwork as Jimmy Saul Goodman McGill. Lalo Salamanca struggles to figure out who Werner Ziegler and Michael are and what they have to do with Gus's mysterious construction project. He learns from Nacho and Crazy 8 of a rumor that Salamanca's cocaine has been stepped on. Lalo Salamanca decides to investigate with Nacho in tow, driving to a Salamanca hideout where packets of the cocaine from Gus's chicken farm are being kept for distribution. Lalo Salamanca inspects each packet and determines that some of them are not cartel product. In celebration of his reinstatement, Kim gives Jimmy a new briefcase and inscribed with his real initials and a thermos reading "World's Second Best Lawyer" again. Jimmy contemplates throwing a promotional event selling his remaining drop phones and considers offering a 50% discount for non-violent offenders. Kim is concerned that what Jimmy is planning will encourage his clients to continue their criminal behavior and will reflect badly on Jimmy himself. He tells her that he can't go back to being regarded as Chuck McGill's loser brother and insists that his new identity as Saul Goodman will give him a fresh start. Lalo Salamanca drives to the chicken farm to have a sit-down with Gus Fring and Juan Bosa over the altered cocaine. Gus falsely admits that he secretly replaced some of the cartel's cocaine with methamphetamine after Werner stumbled upon Gus's drug business and stole some of the product. When Lalo Salamanca demands to know what construction project Werner was working on, Gus shows him and Bolsa a massive structure being built by Werner's men for an industrial chiller. Lalo is introduced to Mike, who is supervising the crew, with Lalo seemingly, like, okay. And then Bolsa tells Gus that Don Eladio is not pleased with the breach and warns him not to keep secrets from the cartel again. Outside the chicken farm, Juan Bolsa confronts Lalo for spying on Gus's operation and murdering the Travel Wire employee. Lalo Salamanca replies that he is simply looking after the interests of his uncle Hector Salamanca, who believes that Gus Fring is holding a grudge against the cartel after Hector Salamanca executed Gus Fring's boyfriend. And then Juan Bolsa insists that Gus is solely concerned with business, to which Lalo Salamanca expresses skepticism due to an unspecified past incident. Juan Bolsa says that Gus will never be one of us, but that he's a good earner who keeps Don Eladio happy, which is all that matters. And then Lalo Salamanca tells Juan Bolsa that he has no further issues with Gus Fring. After nightfall, Jimmy gives away his remaining drop phones from inside a circus tent, with Huel acting as his bouncer. The city's criminals, misfits, and bad characters come out in droves to take the phones, creating a carnival-like atmosphere. Jimmy, donning a brightly colored suit, takes the opportunity to offer his reinstated legal services to these customers and eventually gives away his entire drop phone supply. When the crowd begins to leave, Jimmy regains their attention by offering his 50% discount. Huel congratulates Jimmy on a job well done, but Jimmy tells him they're just getting started. Werner's men are transported by truck to the middle of the desert, where they are to take several vehicles to various distant airports and take flights home. Before he hands out the plane tickets, Mike warns the men that there will be consequences if any of them divulges the details of their work for Gus Fring. Kai tells Mike that Werner was soft and that his killing had to be done, which prompts Mike to punch him in the face and knock him to the ground. Casper tells Mike that Werner was worth 50 of you, which emotionally impacts Mike. So we remember that Mike killed Werner Ziegler in the season 4 finale at Gus Fring's orders. Gus explains to Mike that the construction of the excavation will not continue as long as Lalo Salamanca is north of the border. He further says that Werner's wife has been told that he has been killed in a construction accident and has been compensated, and that Mike will continue to be paid as a retainer, or continue to be paid a retainer. Mike, disgusted at the whole situation, tells Gus to keep his retainer and leaves. Bill Oakley is walking through the courthouse when he is ambushed by Joey's film crew, who are posing as TV reporters who are confronting him over a case that he had heard nothing about. Jimmy enters the scene as the fictitious defendant's attorney, confronting a confused Bill Oakley and making a speech before the camera. The stunt attracts more potential business from people at the courthouse. Meanwhile, Kim, working in her public defender capacity, tries to convince a stubborn client to take a 5-month plea deal and avoid trial for fencing the stolen mini fridges. Jimmy appears and, upon hearing about the situation, proposes a scheme to make Bobby take the deal by posing as a antagonistic prosecutor. Kim is unnerved at the idea of scamming her client and orders Jimmy to leave. However, when Bobby and his pregnant wife ask what the argument was about, Kim finds herself going along with the ruse, telling them that Jimmy was a prosecutor who took the plea deal off the table. Bobby suddenly becomes desperate to take the deal, prompting Kim to go into a stairwell to compose herself over what she has done. And that's what ends this episode of Better Call Saul. So I must admit, I dozed off a few times during this episode. I don't know why, I did. It's been like a week since I watched it, actually, technically. I'm going to give the episode an 8.1 out of 10. My characters of the episode are going to be Mike and Kim, probably, maybe even Lalo. I put Mike and Kim, but honestly, a lot of people had this kind of the same amount of time to shine in this episode, so it was a little difficult to choose, and I was dozing off a couple times. Not sure why. It wasn't too late at night, but anyway, you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, or El Camino Breaking Bad movie, and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm because you're a Breaking Bad fan, please make sure that you hammer fist that like button, or Hulk smash the like button, however you want to put it. Share the video with a friend. Put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of Better Call Saul. What would you rate it, and whom would you choose as the character of the episode? Obviously, Jimmy is the character of almost every single episode of Better Call Saul. But if we go to the second and third best, the standouts besides Jimmy, that's why I went with Mike and Kim. And then, of course, if you want to check out my old Breaking Bad content, click right here. If you want to check out my Better Call Season 6 reviews early, click right here when the show is actually airing. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.